Welcome back, everybody, to this broadcast. I started this radio journey, a really long time ago. So long that I really lost count. It's easily been 40 years at minimum. And when I started, I really did any talking. You just played music. You joined people on their commute or while they did laundry. You had a read or two for some obscure product that hardly anyone would buy, but it was a paycheck. I remember being told the future was coming into get off AM and move into something better. Well, that turned to FM, then digital and social media. You get the picture. More and more I was talking and there was less music, and honestly that suited me just fine. As we moved along, the ratings did begin to drop. Paychecks got leaner and leaner. I was told to move over to the new platforms or I'd have to face obscurity. And we embraced it a little, but I never got the traction because radio isn't made for that social media platform. It's not the same kind of talking that you're used to in one area versus another. A podcast it's a different animal. But that all changed a short time ago. That's when the dead got up and started eating people. And I realized the words, the higher you go, the harder you fall. See, the digital world was the first to fall. The televisions were next. FM, which is a digital format now too. Well, not many knew that, but that became obsolete next. You know what wasn't digital? AM. Now, I can't tell you what my ratings are. I don't know if you can count the dead in advertising either. I'll be honest, I don't know how many people actually listen or if anybody's listening at all. I'll be honest, I don't get any calls to promote a new car from a dealership in the middle of the sticks. And you won't get any advertisements telling you to vote, even though you probably should. I mean, honestly, we don't even know who's running things anymore. Nope, it's just me talking and throwing in some music from time to time just for the fun of it. What I can tell you is I'm the only horse in this race unless you have an amateur radio rig, and even then you may not get it. It's just easier to tune into my basement radio station and get the abridged version of the events going on than it is to deduce what some guy on the radio is telling you for instructions and asking you to do a little bit of research on it. It's less interactive. So it really got me thinking, is it better now? I know a lot of you survival guys agree with me already, and you don't need to be sold on it, but there are many people out there hoping that one day they're going to tune in and they're going to hear me say it's all over. That there's a cure, maybe some way to prevent this, and an antidote, something. And I'll be honest, I'm not holding my breath anymore on it either. I don't want to argue because building this bunker was the best thing it's ever been done for me, and I didn't even know it. I thought for sure it was a big waste of money beyond getting away from my girlfriend for an hour or two to play a video game or watch a movie on some ancient VHS tape. Some of them I've played multiple times. Well, now it's been my survival. And what's worse is my grandfather built this place, so for me it was effectively free. He was a great guy that built it to protect his family from the Cold War. But once that blew over, it was turned into a washroom, complete with one of those old open-top washing machines that they had the two rollers on top that squeezed out the excess water instead of a spin cycle. It turned out to be a great place to put a radio rig, too. I still have the washing machine, though. My empty house sits above this. It looks dark, unused. The point of it is to make sure that people don't want to come in it, while I stay down here, effectively outlasting the apocalypse. So, why do I think things are better in these conditions? It's simple. It's less than a year ago I was arguing about politics, seeing us gradually divide in ways we wouldn't imagine. Things that we thought were new that we've just been doing for hundreds of years. Maybe thousands, tens of thousands. Today people are coming together to help each other just to survive. Nobody cares about your politics anymore. And in fact, back then I heard a lot of folks being called a racist or being a bad person or a bigot or all these derogatory terms. Well, now it's clear that those people don't care what your skin color or your beliefs, your nationality, any of that. As long as you're on the side to save humanity, that's really all that matters anymore. And a lot of people have forgotten the rules that were written on paper, the convoluted system that we used to adhere to that really we summed up because we didn't understand the whole thing. We were instead ruled over by college-educated men that talked big words that, honestly, only a lawyer could love. We argued definitions constantly. Today it's biblical, and for some reason those laws, those moralities, even though they're not written down on a piece of paper, they still hold a ton of sway. They still exist in some way that is beyond the paper that they're written on. Nobody asks what murder is. We all know. We know that stealing from somebody now is a life or death proposition. I find it funny too that an awful lot of people started praying. It's funny how the end of the world gets everybody believing in God and finally going to Him. Our world, it got really small. Maybe too fast. And now suddenly that small world is very much big again. And the bigger it is, the scarier it gets. The more we start trying to make sense out of things and realize that we're not very intelligent at all. That we just are moving towards our next level of ignorance. And that ignorance was on full display when the world went to hell. Communication became vital to survival, and your neighbor suddenly was a lifeline, not just somebody you could argue about of whose grass was greener. That didn't matter anymore. I remember a while back I was told by some fancy college guy that if it all fell apart, that we'd be Mad Max, that there'd be gangs filling the streets, tribal thinking would be the norm, that people would go out and kill and destroy and overtake things. Well, I haven't seen much of that. In fact, a lot of people stayed home and waited for somebody to tell them what to do instead of going out and making their own things. And the things that some people did do was going out and doing the wrong thing and learning a lesson. I gotta say, when you're at zero, the trust factor suddenly becomes the priority. It's suddenly a big deal. Families that were split suddenly became tight again. Communities that hated each other suddenly realized that they would need each other to survive, that they would need some sort of system to come together. And we started to see that. We started seeing people trying to connect once the connections that mattered were gone. Once their, if you want to, their tribe went away and suffered, they needed a new tribe to fill that void. And we are, by human nature, a community-based system. But the truth is we used to live in a love-based system, the system that do your neighbor kindly and all the stuff that people told you had to do. And now we live in a trust-based one. And we find that that system is so much easier than a system where we don't know who we're supposed to be helping, because who do we love and who do we not? Everybody's different. Trust is pretty concrete, and there is nothing but truth and reality now. There is no fantasy. There's no writing a story. There's no fantasy story could ever live up to this. It's, even when people did try to write about these things, it was so much worse in reality and so much more devastating that we realized how much of our world had been sugar-coated, how much of it had been hidden away under some sort of censorship to make it so that when we finally saw this, a lot of people just went into shock. And it makes me understand why we punished with rods, because doing the right thing was life or death. And not seeing it, not understanding it, not being fully engulfed in arguing about things we really had no concept of understanding, it made everything worse. We do not realize how coddled we were until the nice sheets, the AC'd house, the heater, all that stuff disappeared. The nice food on the table. When you started saying, okay, where does the food come from? And it's not just some building where it shows up for anymore. And it frightened me that that's how people thought, that now it has to come from somewhere, and if you don't make it, it doesn't exist. We forgot all that. That's how sugar-coated our world is, or was. There is a new divide now. It's clear. It's no longer that there's the haves and the have-nots, or the one side or the other. Today's new divide is the doers and the don'ts. And if you're willing to put in the work, you're going to always have folks that want you on their team. And if you are the kind of person that gets in the way, doesn't want to work with others, doesn't do what you need to do, well, you're zombie food. This world doesn't have a space for weakness of any kind, and it will quickly show you what weakness is. If you say, we need to harbor these things, then you're going to learn very quickly that you're one of the weak ones. If you harbor illness, if you harbor injustice, if you harbor any of that stuff, it's no longer about somebody looking at it on a piece of paper and bringing it before court and saying, this person is guilty, let's lock them up. It's your ass. And there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Those things don't care. They will eat you alive. And they don't ask questions they can't be reasoned with. And there is no question. It was the same way before, just now there's the rule, versus before it was, maybe somebody would be compassionate. No, things that were devouring you before were always going to devour you, just now that you see it in black and white. And it makes me wonder if everything does finally right itself up, if we'll learn from this little experiment, or will we go right back to where we were? I'm sure somebody's going to say zombies were created in a lab, or they were engineered, or the military or the government or somebody was. There's always going to be that kind of thing that's going on, but they really don't matter because we're here in it now. It doesn't matter until the story finally ends. So that'll be for a couple of generations down the road. If everybody wants to argue it now, great, but just becomes a waste of time. And it kind of makes me worry. See, right now we live in a military mind, and it's the best thing to have. It's a simple mind. You choose a target, you deal with it. The questions and all the other things in the middle don't matter. I mean, does anybody want to go back to a time of political thinking where we can't trust anything we're told, where the words and the ideology that we're given is questionable at best? Will there be one person that rises to the top of this and defeats all this evil? No, I doubt it. And that's how it should be. We're being attacked on every front, not just one. There's not some ideology that we're running against. There's simply a machine that wants to devour us. And that doesn't leave space for one person to rise to the top. It leaves space for all of us to rise to the top. Sure, we're going to have our heroes. I just doubt they'll ever take over the world, because what's there to take over? And how long will it last? How long will this fight go on for? I doubt it's going to be blowing over in the next couple of months or a year. I think it'll take a long time to pick up the pieces, even if it does disappear in an afternoon. Even because we don't know where it came from or what it does or how it works. For those living in it right now, all that doesn't matter. It's just the fight for survival and people that made bad decisions. This is your opportunity to start making good decisions. Find people you trust and be trustworthy. The value now is people you can count on that have your back. That's how you build a civilization and survive in the face of adversity. Some of you thought you had it all figured out, and when the dead came to overturn your camps and your tents and your world and your reality, you realized very quickly that there actually was a better way, or at least there had to be, because the one you were living in didn't work. The training, everything people told you, how they sold products, how they it made you invest in things, suddenly those things didn't matter anymore. Those infomercials were junk. That you now had to question them because your survival depends on questioning whatever you do next. And your brain stopped being lazy. You started getting invested. Some rose to the occasion. There are some that didn't, and they didn't make it. They were counted among the ones that are coming after us. Make no mistake though, it is your choice where you go from here. There's nobody holding you back. There are no rules anymore. That's what you're learning. And now, there really are people hunting you. And if you don't work together, because those are very cut and dry, black and white, there they are. You can see them. It shouldn't be any question now who they are. But everybody else is the people that you need to work together to overcome that, or be defeated yourself. And that's where we should have learned before, where the divide was and where the problem was, is because we never had a focused, true enemy. We never had the adversity, so we adversed each other. And now we have something, and it's clear and concise, and life or death. There's some kind of crazy life lesson in there. And yeah, people say hate this world, but I gotta say, I'm starting to like it. I want it around until the old guard disappears and a new guard that remembers both the past and the present and understands the future, that they'll be the world everybody can live in. At least until we forget. And when we forget what the talking heads said and the politics died, it changed everything. I don't know what's going to come back. I don't know what's going to be the new thing. Or will we just go back to what we were before? I just remember so many people saying that this town needs an enema. Well, now there are no official rules. It's your world to make it what you want. It's not about saying what we should stop, because we need to figure out what we need to do. And if we aren't involved in our own survival, then the dead decide for us. But nobody's going to stop you anymore. Just remember that when milk is being churned, as my grandfather said, it always brings the cream to the top. So now that you have it all, and now that you have no negativity, you have no excuses of why you can't make those things that you thought were so crystal concrete clear that you knew were right, that those things are gone now. What are you going to do with the time that you have? And that is what has yet to be seen.